What does Matthew 24 actually say about the return of Christ? Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Steve Matthews, and you can find me on YouTube under Teeth of the Lamb, that's all one word, or either on Facebook under Steve Matthews, and that's also a Teeth of the Lamb Facebook page. Today is September 27th of 2021. Today's video is entitled, What does Matthew 24 actually say about the return of Christ? What brings me to this topic is that over the course of many years of studying various different topics, biblical topics, and trying to get to the bottom of what I actually believe it says in biblical text, I often, or every once in a while, I would run into somebody that would be saying that Christ returned around 70 AD, and that all things were fulfilled at that time. And I would discount that as that's ridiculous. I mean, I'm looking for topics that are debatable, but I didn't even want to look at that. So here, maybe 3-4 weeks ago now, I actually somehow ended up looking at that, and I read Matthew 24, and I said, whoa, I don't know why I've always ignored this. It may be the power of suggestion by televangelists or something, but I've read Matthew 24 many, many times, and it's always, in my mind, felt like it was talking about future. And that's probably because that's what I've been told. It's going to be future. I can't tell you. But anyway, I reread it, and I don't think it says that Christ is going to return some future distant date. And I think it's actually saying that he returned in that generation, his current generation that he was talking about. And I do need to revisit that today, and I want to really nail it down as to what he was actually saying. And bear in mind that Jesus says in Matthew 24 that he would return in that generation, but he also, it's a parallel in Mark 13, 1 through 37, and in Luke 21, 5 through 36. But today we'll focus primarily on Matthew 24, 1 through 35, and then we'll just briefly go over that the other Mark and Luke also say the same thing as eyewitnesses and confirmation. So we'll get into that here right away. Many people have told me, well, Matthew 24 is not saying that Jesus is going to return in that generation, that it's three separate questions, and Jesus is answering them, and there's breaks between them. Well, in a close examination, I have to say there are no breaks, and that Jesus has one continuous flow answering the disciples' questions of when these things are going to take place. And despite people's insistence that it doesn't say that, I've found quite the contrary. And I would only pose to them that say that it doesn't say he's coming in that current generation, and remind you that it was future for them when he was saying this, because he was to die on the cross shortly after that, and it would be in that generation. So yeah, they were all looking forward to it very excitedly, and Jesus kept telling them that he would his return was imminent, and that's why they were looking for it in the future. And so don't let people deceive you. If you can find any scriptures that support what we've all been led to believe, that Jesus will come at a distant future date, of undisclosed date that nobody knows of, and that we should still be looking for all the things that he mentioned, please put them in the comments. I'd like to see those scriptures. But to date, and I've taken a fairly thorough investigation here of what he said, I can find no evidence of a distant future date return of Christ. And so we need to, if we're going to believe it, we need to find where it says it. It's quite the contrary. He's saying it's imminent. And we're going to get into that now. Now I'm going to take about 30 minutes to go over Matthew and some of the supporting scriptures. And the reason why is because I want to show you exactly what Jesus said. And he did not even allude to the fact that this is going to be a distant future event of his coming. It is imminent. And if you can find scripture to say otherwise, please do so. Now Jesus said, "Take heed that no man deceive you," but I'm going to say, take heed that your own mind does not deceive you. There is no supporting text of Jesus coming in the clouds beyond the generation in which he says he's going to return. And that was his current generation. And people alive then, some of them would live to see the day. And so if you find any of those scriptures, I do want you to put them in the show notes or in the comments. And I think you should also make a video full of those scriptures so we can all see them. But don't deceive yourself. Your own mind can do wonders at deception. So here we are in Matthew 24, and I'm going to fall back for clarification of what Jesus is saying to Matthew 16, 27, I think. Let's see. Yes, 16:27, where Jesus says, "For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. Verily, I say unto you." Now, verily is with confidence, assuredly, in very truth, beyond doubt or question, in fact, certainly. Okay, so that's an important word. Verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. I'd just like to point out that coming in his kingdom is the same event as coming in the clouds. And how you can determine that is by looking right above that in Matthew 16:27, where it says, "For the Son of Man shall come in his glory of his Father with his angels." So when does he come with his angels? Let's go pull up my notes on Mark and Luke and see what they say. So we have Mark 8:38, and I'm just doing the highlighted area here. "When he cometh in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. So he's coming with the angels. He does that when he comes in the clouds, because he brings all the holy angels with him. Another point of interest to narrow down the time frame he's talking about, he says, in this adulterous and sinful generation. So he's talking of that generation and the people that will see him coming with his angels. And then Mark says in 9:1, and he said unto them, verily I say unto you, that there be some of them that stand here, which shall not taste of death till they have seen the kingdom of God come with power. Now let's see what Luke says. Luke 9:26 and the highlighted area. He shall come in his own glory and in his Father's and of the holy angels. So he's coming with the angels. And then Luke 29:27, but I tell you of a truth, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the kingdom of God. When you hear what the rest of what he says to the disciples, you'll understand that this is coming in the clouds, the same event with the angels. So we'll fall back down here to Matthew 23:35. Now, Jesus has just got done berating the scribes and the Pharisees for their killing of the saints and the prophets and scribes, and so here's what he tells them. Matthew 23:35, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, son of Barachas, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar. Verily, there we go again, verily, I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation. Okay, so that's fairly important. Now I want to show you some of my notes. When you read Revelations, you'll find that it's all about the wrath of God upon that generation. And he goes into a lot of detail about Babylon and the blood of the saints. So let's take a look. First, we just read Matthew, but let's look at Luke 11:51. He says basically the same thing. From the blood of Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, which perished between the altar and the temple, verily I say unto you, it shall be required of this generation. So you look up at Mystery Babylon at Revelation 18:20, and it says, rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her. And in Revelation 18:24, and in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. Now, what did he tell him, the Pharisees and scribes in Matthew? Let's look at that. So remember, it just said, and in her was found the blood of the prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. So back here to Matthew 23:35. What did it say? He told them that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth. And it sounds like it's saying pretty much the same thing. So we're going to move down to Matthew 24. I just wanted to set that groundwork. Because here he also says, "Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation." After we go over what Jesus actually says, I would like to know how one derives at the conclusion that it's a distant future event, and how you support that with what text. Okay, now we'll move down to Matthew 24:1. And we'll stop here just for a second because it's important to know what Jesus is answering through this whole section here. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings and temple. And Jesus said unto them, "See ye not these things? Verily, I say unto you," that word verily again, "I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down." Now, this made the disciples very curious of what and when these things are going to happen. So we drop down to Matthew 24:3, and they ask him, "Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world?" And now Jesus goes into the explanation to answer those questions. So the disciples ask their question, "Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall the sign of thy coming and the end of the world?" So we'll follow the red line on the left on down to Matthew 24:34, and we'll see how he sums this up. Matthew 24:34, Jesus uses that word again, verily, which is in truth, in fact, with confidence, assuredly, in very truth, beyond a doubt or question, in fact, certainly. So this is a very strong word, that verily. It means absolutely, definitely. It says, "Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled." All what things? All the things between where they ask the question to this point. Now let's scroll back up to Matthew 24:4, and we'll go over the rest of it. Fortunately, with the English language, it's written in such a way that we can actually tell what Jesus was saying, and we don't have to be arguing endlessly over what's being said here. He uses a lot of transitional words, and he also uses a lot of time order transitions, and this carries on the flow so you can see what's being said and to whom. And we also have a lot of additive transitions. An additive transition are those you use when you want to show that the current point is an addition to the previous one. And he uses a lot of those, and is one of them. And look at all down the yellow beginning of almost every sentence is and there's a lot of them in the sentences themselves, tying it all together, carrying on the flow of one general thought. Now, a time order transition, it signals changes in time. You can include these words in your narrative or your explanatory writing to show the order in which things happen. Anytime you're asked to describe an event or process in chronological time order, these words can help you. And now, I'm not the right person to really be explaining all this to you, but it's important, and I do understand what it's saying. And there are lists online that you can look these up. Just look up time order transitions or transitional words, transitional phrases, and it'll give you lists of these words that are common words that are used, and they're used here in this text to carry on the flow of one general theme, point, purpose, or topic. Now, I do want to explain also that the word "and," which is used an awful lot here, is used to, it's a transitional word, to expand the range of a point you've already begun to make. And that's what Jesus is doing here. He's expanding the range of the point that he's trying to make, of answering their question. And is also used as a function word to indicate connection or addition, especially of items within the same class or type. It's used to join sentences elements of the same grammatical rank and function. Rank or function, actually. It's also used as a function word to express logical modification, consequence, antithesis, or supplementary explanation. It's also used as a function word to join one finite verb, such as go, come, try, and another, so that together they are logically equivalent to an infinitive or purpose. Now we come to the word then, which is used quite a bit here. And it's one of those time order transitions. I use it to describe an event or process in chronological time order. It can be used to frame your point within a sequence of events. To show the place and time of a point you're making. So to further distinguish it, the word then actually means next. And also the word immediately, which is real important here, is also one of these time order transitions. It places your point in time. And sorry to bore you with this, but I think that was important to get understood before we start going down through these, because it really flows really well. And it's also started with the question of when and when's the end. And Jesus answers that at the bottom, which ties it all together, making a complete frame. So now let's go through the body of the text here real quick. So Jesus starts out by saying, "Take heed that no man deceive you." He's talking to them in that generation. He's talking to the disciples who asked the question. "For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars." So the "and ye," that's all of you, "shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye," that you, all of you, "be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." So when you see those things starting, the wars, rumors of wars, the end isn't yet. Okay. "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places." All these are the beginning of sorrows. So all of those things are the beginning. And when you see those, you know that there's more to come. Then, it's one of those time transitions. Then shall they deliver you, telling them that they're going to be delivered up to be afflicted, and shall be killed. They'll be killed, and shall kill you, and ye, all of you, shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And so this is tying it together. It's one of those transitional words. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And so here we go, it's tying it together. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure until the end, the same shall be saved. He's talking to them. Any of them that endure to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come. Now let's look at that. So let's pull up some of my notes here. The gospel was preached to the entire world already. We aren't waiting for that. Because it says here in Colossians 1:23, if ye continue in the faith, grounded and settled, and be not moved away from the hope of the gospel, which ye have heard, and which was preached to every creature which is under heaven. Wherefore I, Paul, am made minister. Well, that's pretty clear. If it's been preached to every creature which is under heaven, I don't think he lied. But Colossians 1:4, before that, it also says, since we heard of your faith in Christ Jesus, and of the love which ye have to all the saints, for the hope which is laid up for you in heaven, wherefore ye, all of you, have heard before in the word of the truth of the gospel. So they've already heard the gospel. And then it goes to number 6, Colossians 1:6, which is come unto you as it is in all the world, and bringeth forth fruit, and it doth also in you, since the day ye heard of it, and knew the grace of God in truth. Well, it sounds like it's been preached to the whole world. I think when they speak of the world, they are talking about the entire world. I don't think it's the way we've been told. I think that that they knew what the world was, and I think the world was pretty well populated, and it was all destroyed. But let's look at Romans 1:8. First, I thank my God through Jesus Christ for you all, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world. So their faith has been spoken of throughout the whole world. That must be the gospel, right? Now let's move down to Matthew 24:15. And remember that our transitional word "and" was at the beginning of the sentence on 24:14. And he also used the word "and, then shall the end come." Now, when we get to 24:15, it says, when ye therefore shall see. Now, that's also a transitional word, the word therefore. Therefore is a conjunctive adverb that you can use as a transitional word in a sentence or a paragraph. It shows cause and effect between independent clauses. Therefore is a result transition word in English writing. When is also a transitional word for chronology in regards to when they occur or something occurs. So we have when ye, that's all of you, not just you. When all of you, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. I won't get into explaining what that is. That's not our purpose today. Then we have then, which is a time transition. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto you, unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray you that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath. So he's telling them that you need to pray that your flight is not in the winter. And all these things are going to happen. And then we get down to Matthew 24:21, which is rather interesting. The tribulation, the great tribulation, the one that we're all waiting for, that will never happen. So let's get into that. So now we have Matthew 24:21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So that doesn't leave much room for anything future or past. No, it's only for that time. And, which is a transitional word tying it together, except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Okay, so those days and those days, they all belong to the Great Tribulation. And he goes on, then, so after that, if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Well, it's not possible to deceive the elect because God won't allow that. But he goes on, behold, I have told you before. So he's foretold them. Wherefore, transitional word, wherefore if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chamber, believe it not. For as lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagle be gathered also. And there's an interesting tie to there will be the eagles gathered also with the end of Revelations for the Lord's day, the Lord's Supper. That I'll have to show you later. But and then we get down to Matthew 24:29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days. Well, now, what is that still talking about? The same those days that he's talking about up above? Yes, it is. So that's the tribulation, the great tribulation. Immediately after that happens, which they're going to see, and he's telling them they're going to experience, that's immediately after that, all of these things come. So immediately after those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then, so we're going to move down to the conclusion here, and bear in mind that this was never written with titles or chapter and verse. It was all written together, and you can see a pretty good flow here, especially when it shows the immediately after the tribulation of those days, ties it all together, brings it on down. And then we start out with Matthew 24:30, and then, which is again tying it all together. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds and of heaven with power and great glory. So they're going to see it. And he's saying they and them because that's going to be in their future, but still within that generation. And he's going to conclude with that. And Matthew 24:31, and he, Jesus, shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn a parable of a fig tree. When his branch is yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise you, when you shall see all these things, that's the plural you, all of you, shall see these things, know that it is near, at the door, even at the door. And he says, verily, that same word, conclusive word, absolutely, verily, I say unto you, the disciples, this generation shall not pass, the generation that they're in, till all these things be fulfilled. What things? All the things that he just went through, all the way up to the first question. Now, if you still have any doubts about what Jesus said or what he meant, Jesus before Caiaphas in the council, Matthew 26:64. And Jesus saith unto him, Thou hast said, nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. Well, that's pretty clear to me. So anyway, the final thing in this video is I'm just going to make a very topical look at Mark and Luke to show you that they are laid out the same way as Matthew, and you can read them for yourself. We won't read them or anything. We're just going to look at the layout. So now we look at Mark, and it's basically laid out the same way as Matthew. The two questions being asked is, when shall these things be, and what will be the sign? And these are the same two questions that Matthew and Luke ask. So there's no three questions that I can see. And Jesus goes through answering them. And we have the same transitional word. He uses the word and a lot. and it ties things together and keeps the flow. Also, ye and you, showing exactly who he's talking to. So after the two questions, we can scroll on down to the end and see how he sums it up. So looking at Mark 13:30, we see Jesus saying exactly the same thing as he did in Luke and Matthew. Verily I say unto you, the disciples, that this generation shall not pass till all these things be done. That's different because he said fulfilled in Matthew. So all the things that between the question and this point will be done in that generation. In Mark 14:62, we have a confirmation of what Jesus said in Matthew. The high priest asked him a question, and he says, I am, and ye shall see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. So that's another confirmation that was what was said. And this is separate from the Mount of Olives. Now let's pop back up here to the Great Tribulation. In Mark 13:19 says, For in those days shall be affliction, such as was not from the beginning of the creation which God created until this time, neither shall be. So there'll never be one that matches the one of that time. So then we go to 13:20, and except that the Lord had shortened those days, no flesh should be saved. Well, when we go down to Mark 13:24, it says, but in those days, the same those days that it's talking about for the affliction, after that tribulation. Now he calls it tribulation here. So we can see that it's laid out basically the same as Matthew. And we'll look at Luke real quick. Also, it's laid out the same way. In Luke 21:7, we see the same two questions being asked. When shall these things be? And what shall the signs be? And when we scroll down to the end at Luke 21:32, we see Luke records the same thing that Matthew and Mark recorded. He says, Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Now, that ties everything together from the original two questions, and all that in between is finalized right here. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Now we go back up to Luke 21:22, and he describes the tribulation a bit differently. He says, For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. So all things be fulfilled. And these are the days of vengeance. Now in Luke 21:23, he says, But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. So, see, the War of Armageddon was all about the wrath of God, for them killing the prophets and the saints and the scribes that God sent to them over many years, and it accumulated, and this was the time of wrath. We can confirm that when we pop back up to Luke 11:51, that he says, "From the blood of Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, which perished between the altar and the temple, verily I say unto you, it shall be required of this generation." And so that leads us all into what Jesus described to his disciples about what they're going to see, and it includes almost all of Revelations, in my opinion. And I think the only thing left for us today is that of maybe Zechariah and the little season when Satan is released at the end of Revelations. And that's up for debate, but that's my opinion. And here's a sample of the timeline that I think we're on at this particular point. So I want to thank all of you if you made it this far in watching this video. And you have a darn nice day.